Welcome to Walker Talks. I'm Lacey Smith with the Walker County Chamber of Commerce, joined by Pastor Ashley Mew from the Gordon Lake Wesleyan Church. Hey, we made it through our first podcast.
We did. We actually survived.
They let us come back and do it.
They invited us back.
Yeah.
It went great, and it went live.
It did.
It's out there on YouTube and the podcast channels, and
so it's nice to try, I guess, doing something different.
Have you been getting autographs or anything?
No, somebody said they were getting feedback. I said, is it bad feedback?
But it'll get there. I'm excited about it. I thought it went well.
I was asking some of our members who they would like to see on the podcast, get some interesting people, maybe, business professionals that they would like to tune in and listen to. We have one of those. We have one of our new members, Courtney McIlvane with Southern Shadows, joining us today.
Welcome, Courtney.
Oh, thank you
So we just came through some cold weather.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
We had a little bit of an ice scare that didn't do anything.
That's right.
But you look like you're ready for winter today. So
well, I was raised in New England, so I know how to prepare. But I also just wanted to make sure I had something fashionable for your show.
I love it.
We gotta get Lacey a coat. And if you're not watching, if you're in fact listening to the podcast, you've got to check it out on YouTube because this coat is amazing.
I call it my Penny Lane coat. If anyone's seen like the movie Almost Famous, like the girl in it wears this like very furry like hippie coat, and I feel like it's kind of like that.
I love it. Well, it suits you. So when we did the ribbon cutting at your business in downtown Chickamauga, by the way,
yes,
you had on this. I guess it was like an antebellum inspired dress, which fit right in line. And we did the ribbon cutting on Halloween Day.
We did. It was a Victorian morning gown with like the full hoops, and I stand by that dress. I actually was like, this is very flattering. We need to bring this style back. I mean, it's a little work, but I enjoyed,
Maybe not on a hot summer day, but
no, I did get a Scarlett O'Hara spring one though that I'll bring out for spring stuff.
Nice. Well, we will get more into your business and what you do. The podcast, this episode too, we really wanted to touch on relationships and how they help businesses grow. But you had such an interesting story that I thought it was a perfect fit for this topic of how you got here in the first place and how you became a business owner in downtown Chickamauga.
Yeah, it's like an unexpected journey for sure, even for me. It wasn't something that if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have known right away. So I'm originally from Connecticut. I like to tell people I have Southern credentials, though. My father was from Macon, Georgia, and all his family's still there and for generations. And he went to UGA, and he was a history major. So even though I was raised in Connecticut, where my mom's from, I was raised on Southern history. That was sort of what he wanted to make sure we had. And so I grew up on that, and I grew up loving history, and I grew up in a house that had some like unexplained activity, and these famed ghost hunters came to my house when I was 15. So I always had sort of this supernatural, ethereal fascination because of that, and a passion for history. But being up in Connecticut, we didn't really have a lot of Civil War stuff, and I started focusing on things that we did have in New England, the American Revolution, all these sea captains, things like that. So in 2013, after meeting a lady who really inspired me with her work with history and paranormal in Vermont, I created a company called Seaside Shadows. My dad passed away shortly before I created that. And during the COVID pandemic, which now seems eons ago, I had kind of wanted to connect with him and things he had taught me and get back into writing more books like I had been doing. I said, I'm going to go back to that Civil War stuff. And I sort of pilgrimaged down the East Coast to all sorts of battlefields. And of course, because I was writing Civil War Ghosts of Georgia, my first Georgia stop was here in Chickamauga, which I'd never been to. I fell in love with the people here, the battlefield, the history. I kept coming back. And then by fate and a series of very good people, I was invited to come see more about the town and talk about tours. And I started thinking, how on earth do they not have a tour? Gettysburg has a tour, Antietam has a tour, all these other beautiful, rich, sort of history communities have tours, and Chickamauga's sitting here with all of this wonderful information and legends. And so it was just fate, and I came into it.
Well, I love that too, because for those of us who grew up in this area, we've heard about the Civil War history, all of our lives, but I think we tend to take it for granted.
Right.
Like, so much of it happened just right in our own backyard.
Yeah, that's really cool that we're easy to fall in love with.
Yes.
You mentioned falling in love with the South. So I am not from Connecticut, if you can't tell by the way I talk. But we, yes, the southern people are easy to fall in love with, and so cool. So did you have the idea when you came down here that you wanted to start a business in this area, or no?
I wasn't sure about the tour part. I knew I wanted to write about this area. And when I had started my company, Seaside Shadows, which is the sister company, I had sort of a dream of having multiple locations. I didn't want to be sort of this overarching corporation, but a few places where I could go between and fall in love with the history, but I wasn't sure. And because I first came here when things were shut down, I really wasn't sure what the trajectory of tourism was going to look like at the end of it. So there were a lot of questions, but the more time I spent here, the more I realized that, this isn't enough for just a book. Like, this is something that has to be continually nurtured and offered so that people know to come here and see what there is.
So this brings up an interesting thought for me. How easy was it to get integrated into, particularly in a pandemic, right? How easy was it to get integrated into Walker County?
So I don't know, knock on wood, I thought it was wonderfully amazing, but I am from New England, where we're a little bit tougher on each other and we're not known for being so hospitable, I suppose. So I had been running a business in a community where I had wonderful people, but I also had pushback all the time. So I always had like my sort of Irish, like sort of fighting self on. When I came here, it was so funny. The very first Airbnb I stayed at when I was visiting, the hosts of it were fantastic right here in Chickamauga. And they started introducing me to their friends who were business owners and professionals in town, who introduced me to Eric Pullen, who works with the city, who then said, why don't you come and I'll show you around. And it was just this sort of series of meets that was like, wow, they genuinely will talk to you about it, listen to your ideas. It was more of a excitement of, oh, you want to feature Walker County and we can have something new. And it was a mutual excitement. And I loved that. It sort of, fed the energy.
I think too, the Airbnb owners that you mentioned, they came to your ribbon cutting, didn't they?
They did,
yeah.
yes.
I love that.
They're so fantastic. And now it's become this family thing. My family just visited from Connecticut. They stayed there, got to meet them. And they introduced me to Leah, who runs 109 Gallery, who's across the street from our shop. And I've just gotten to sort of be immersed. And what's hilarious is one of the first days I was setting stuff up in our shop downtown, I found there were locals were coming out saying, you're the ghost tour lady. And they had never met me. I guess I was dressed all in black, so that kind of gave it away. But they were like, I have stories. And even, some of the folks that worked for the city were sharing stories when they were working on our shop. And everyone was just so open. And it really was just fantastic. I'm so grateful. I tell my Connecticut team members all the time about it. I'm like, you have to see this place. These people are just like, I could have fought it, but they would have sucked me right in.
Well, and one of the things too, I think we talked about in our first conversation when I came to visit you, is how you kind of balance, the history of Chickamauga and telling the Civil War history, but also being respectful of the locals and, some may be hesitant to explore ghost stories. And you, I guess, position it in such a way of, look, the history is there. We're just resharing, and it's up to them to interpret it how they will, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I'm not there to convince anyone in ghosts or paranormal. I'm there to share this very rich history of oral tradition, folklore, legends, and those things for communities across the world have been used to share messages of meaning, but also to promote history. And so when we look at an area like Chickamauga, we see so much history, but we see that locals 150 years ago were sharing stories of things they saw that they couldn't explain and how it reminded them of the battle or how it reminded them of something the Cherokee ancestors told them. And once we see those legends start to come up, we really get sort of a neat view into what life was like then and how they saw that history and how we can carry that forward. And I like to bring on my tours like news articles where they maybe wrote about ghosts or legends, and we see what they believed then, and I show them to people. I'm like, so they know I'm not just making this up to spook you. This is what these people thought. Like, what do you think? And we just have that conversation. But I think it just shows how connected we are to the past and reminds people that they were people too, just 150, 200 years ago. Yeah.
So I grew up near the coast of South Carolina. And so I've been to Charleston a lot. Yes. And, they're real rich in history, and they use tours and ghost tours to attract people and share their story.
Yes.
And it's so neat, and that's what people go there for. Like, you go there, and I always tell people when they're visiting, they're like, okay, where do I need to eat in Charleston and what do I need to do? Okay, here are the places you need to eat and go on a tour.
Yes.
Because it just gives you the best overview, I guess, of the area and the history and how things came into play and into being, and that's, you're right, that's something that's been needed here, and there's a lot of story here to tell. And so I'm glad that you've been able to bring that. I know when I first came here, I'm a transplant too, so I went through leadership and with Walker County with the chamber, and it exposed me to so much that we don't know, and I feel like you're giving the opportunity for people that have maybe from here to even learn more about things that they don't know about the area.
Yeah, I always, when I have a local come on the tour, especially when I was starting here this year, I was more nervous. I was like, I don't want the locals to think, who's this foreign lady coming in telling me my history, right? So it's something I take really seriously, but I've just been so blessed. All these locals have been like, thank you for honoring my town or teaching me stuff I didn't know or giving me this experience. And that warms my heart as much too as I get a lot of sort of college kids and things like that who are like, I would have paid more attention to my history class if it was like you said it. And that's probably the highest compliment I've ever gotten, because that means that I'm sharing it in a way that makes them feel invested in these true stories, and that brings history alive and brings this area alive to them. And we are starting to get some sort of offshoots of all these visitors to Chattanooga too, who are like, oh, I didn't realize this was right here. And that was another thing I wanted people to find out is, we're right here, and we're just as rich and so much to offer.
One thing I'm excited about, and I hope to have Eric Pullen with the city of Chickamauga on a future episode, is the connection of the Chickamauga Connector Trail. So it's going to connect the battlefield directly with downtown, because a lot of times we have, I think there's about 500,000, can't remember the exact number of visitors to the military park.
Over 1 million,
Okay. And then, but getting them into downtown Chickamauga, and they don't even know sometimes that there is a downtown Chickamauga.
They don't.
So what do you think that looks like?
That was one of the first things Eric showed me, because a lot of the research I've done, yes, part of it's downtown Chickamauga, but a lot of it is the battlefield. It's the first national military park. You had a battle there in 1863 with 120,000 guys there at a time when Chickamauga had a population of 90 people. You know what I mean? It was Crawfish Springs, right? And so I really wanted to make sure that there was a way, and you'll find if you come on any of our tours, anyone who's not from here is, how do I get to the battlefield? Where should I go there? So I'm just so excited to be able to tell them that they can do that. And one thing Eric and I were chatting about for the future is having some sort of bike rental at our shop where we can help people after a tour get down to the battlefield. And we're also trying to create scavenger hunts where there's things we talk about on the tour, witness trees, homes, or restored or recreated homes on the battlefield that people lived in, hidden graves of soldiers who were never brought to a cemetery. We want to create these things where people can find them, come back to the store, either win a book or ghost hunting equipment, but they can go out and journey and sort of expand throughout the area, and having that accessibility they can bike down there and do that. Oh, it's going to be amazing.
Well, and the characters, you mentioned, I think it was not the innkeeper, but there was a gentleman who lived in the house in the battlefield, and I think he lived to be like 100 and something. Do you remember?
Oh, yes. So there was a gentleman named Mark Thrash, and he was born into slavery in Ringgold in 1820. And in 1863, the owner of his plantation asked him to come out to the Chickamauga battlefield and look for his son, because his son hadn't come home from battle. And he came out to Chickamauga, and of course, being an enslaved person, arriving on a scene of, a mess and a massacre, he was put to work burying the bodies of the deceased. And then he was still enslaved until the end of the war through some of the military members. But after the war, when he was a free man, he came back to Northwest Georgia. And when the military park opened, he sort of presented himself as someone who could speak to what he had seen, because he had been there and seen the carnage. And he ended up sort of becoming an unofficial park ranger. And they built him a home there, and his name was Mark Thrash. And Ulysses S. Grant and Robert E. Lee brought him coats, and he would wear this apron and come out on the porch and tell people the tales of what he witnessed and the memory. And he lived to be 123 years old. He was called Uncle Mark, and he's actually buried down at the District Hill Cemetery. And it was in the 1960s that a park ranger named Ed Tinney had the cemetery stone made for him there, so you can still go visit it. But we show a picture of him on the tour. I can picture his smiling face, but his name is Mark Thrash, and he's just a local legend. And there's a beautiful book about him that I found at my Airbnb called Seen the Glory, and it's about his very full life, all the hardships, all the things he witnessed, and all the stories he shared.
I love how she can pull those stats and figures and dates.
It's just
right. I had a hard time remembering what I had for breakfast. And she's recalling history from the 1800s. It's fascinating.
It's my job. It's okay.
And so many of us, we grew up hearing about green eyes, but we don't know other stories necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fun thing about green eyes too is there's so many different versions of the green eye story, and that's what makes it so exciting, and what makes it open to interpretation is I've heard stories of green eyes being the ghost of a person, looking like an animal, being some ethereal being entirely made up. And so I share all of these things with folks and say, you get to decide.
Have you gone looking for green eyes? Maybe.
Oh no, I don't mess with that. I don't mind talking to ghosts. I would if there's a soldier out there, if we can have a conversation, sure. I don't like to talk to things that I don't understand. You know?
It actually came up. So our office is in the county building, and there are several other businesses there. And when we were doing your ribbon cutting on Halloween, several of us, the whole office came out, and we all had our costumes on, and we went to your ribbon cutting. But the discussion came up of who had gone hunting for green eyes, and apparently I was the only person in that building who at some point in their teenage years did not go through the battlefield at night searching for green eyes. So you weren't around.
I see an excursion in our future, right?
Yes, well, I have learned.
Technically closes at night.
Everyone says you're not, we're technically in Appalachia, you're not supposed to talk to the woods of Appalachia at night, is what I've been told by the locals, because they talk back. And I didn't learn, when I first came down, I was driving through the battlefield at night, hello, taking pictures, can anyone hear me like the weird ghost lady I am, right? And I always hope, that I get some anomaly, like a face in the camera or a voice on audio.
Or an orb or something.
Oh, yeah, and occasionally I do, and it's exciting. And one time I said, hey, is anyone there? And I took a picture, and there were two glowing green, possibly eyes, something in the woods. And I skedaddled back to the truck with my dog, and my husband was in there. I said, drive. we shan't be pursuing this one stop any further.
We're doing it anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
We could add that as a leadership stop. On
there we go.
There you go.
There we go.
I will encourage everyone to do it but me.
I want to circle back.
Yes.
I want to circle back to something you said earlier, because you even referenced, I learned that in a book at the Airbnb, right? Which started out as a relationship that built a relationship that built a relationship. You mentioned that several times.
Yes.
And so, we know that people that grew up here and have lived here can start a business. They know the right people and can make the right phone calls. But for someone coming from the outside wanting to bring business into Walker County, you mentioned relation. I just kind of want you to touch on that a little bit more of how that was so pivotal and you've been able to get this started?
Oh, it was 100% crucial. And I think I would tell anyone that wants to come into Walker County and open a business, be open to establishing relationships, talk to the people when you come in here. Don't sort of just hide around or talk to one person. Talk to the people that you're meeting when you're walking down the street. Eric brought me to the stores, like Songs and Stories, introduced me to them, introduced me to John Culpepper at the Gordon Lee, made sure that I was meeting the right people. I go into the park building and I introduce myself to the park rangers. It's important to be open and network because that's going to be your support system. I even had wonderful relationships down at the Marsh House in Lafayette. They were some of the first people that invited me to give book talks over the past few years. Yes, David, he's fantastic. At our shop, we have this bowl that was made from a tree that had fallen there because they rescue all the historic trees and turn them into all these different furnishings, and I love to honor that. And they had a gentleman who went to school there who actually started the Blue and Gray reunion at the Gordon Lee. So Walker County is so beautifully connected in history and in real life. But I also tell folks to remember that Chickamauga and Walker County is the site where at the end of the Civil War, two very opposing sides came and shook hands and broke bread and said, we're going to move together as brothers and one community. And that shows that this area is a sign of hope and optimism and unification and community. And so I see it as sort of our duty to carry that forward.
Absolutely. Well, and I love how that translates to modern day, even local politics. There may be things going on that people, have opposing views on, but just like you said, with the Blue and Gray barbecue, people were able to put their differences aside and come together.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, if they could do it in 1889 after what happened on the battlefield here just 20 years prior, and I mean, we even had the commanding general of the Union Army come back here, and we had John B. Gordon, who was the governor of Georgia and a Walker County native, come here, and they shook hands, and there were thousands of these guys. I believe 14,000 that came here, and then they went out to the battlefield and marked where they stood together. And if they can do it, we can do it.
Tell me about field trips. I think that was something that we had talked about briefly. Just groups that could come to your business or coordinate with tours. What does that look like?
Yes. So private tours is something else that we offer. We have public tour schedules, but private tours are a way. Sometimes we have corporate retreats, but we do a lot of school field trips and try to offer that out there where we can cater the tour to, of course, a curriculum, but also because we're providing the history of Indigenous people, enslaved people, Civil War era. We want to make sure that all these eras of history are communicated and they can come and we can do walking tours, we can create scavenger hunts together, we can perhaps even do some trolley tours and make sure that the kids have an opportunity to experience history in a new way. They can play with some ghost hunting equipment, help them get engaged and feel like a part of it. But it's a really fun way to sort of bring history to the kids.
You guys did trolley tours in conjunction with maybe the Green Ice Festival?
With the Green Ice Festival, we got to go through the battlefield, and I got to talk on the little microphone and tell folks about everything we were driving by, and it was really fun.
I love it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love your story. I love the way you've been able to just integrate yourself right into the community and start a business. Like that's the American dream right there, right?
I'm grateful. I'm very grateful.
And just love that you've been so welcomed by the community, and that says a lot. So at the Chamber, our role is to help provide those relationships, the networking, lift those businesses, help someone to come in and establish a new business or new opportunity like yourself. And as you can see, this community, these people make it real easy for us, right? So basically we're just adding to what is organically already taking place in the community, because it didn't take you long to shake a couple of hands and meet a couple of people and make connections to realize that, hey, I belong here. And this is home for me now. So
yeah. And it's a really nice feeling. Like, it's hard to explain, and it's so funny because I was literally talking about that feeling last night with one of my friends, and I said, I'm not gonna lie, I almost had like a culture shock at how welcomed I was, because it has not happened in that way organically. And she said, I'm having culture shock just hearing about it, right? But in the best way, in such a good way. And even you folks at the Chamber and Walker Rocks, immediately when I reached out and introduced myself, you reached out back and came and supported us and helped usher in this ribbon cutting, and we had more attendance than I could have hoped for. I'm just, eternally grateful.
I think it's such a needed business in our community to really hone in on the history that we have here, because it's already here. Mm-hmm. And we already know that people are coming to Chickamauga to explore the Civil War history. And so having you in the main corridor of the downtown district to be able to connect the dots, not just for tourists, but like we've said, locals too. So, yes. And then you got a taste of our cold weather being from Connecticut.
It was fun.
The whole town shut down over the weekend because of a little bit of cold weather, which, if you're from Connecticut, it's probably not that.
It's not, none of us love it, but I just hear it's temporary.
Nobody
only have it for a couple of days, not months. So I'll take the couple of days and say thanks so much.
They were not knocking down your doors to go on a tour.
No, we're trying to do some indoor events for the winter because I have realized that maybe my New England blood is still a little bit thick, and everyone here is like, I don't know if I want to do tours.
Yeah, they won't get out
at night in the winter, maybe. So we're trying to create some classes and programming so people can come in the shop. Where
you can say it's your blood, but I think it's the coat.
It's the coat. The coat.
It keeps you warm. Definitely the coat.
So we're going to wrap up, but I wanted you to also give a plug to the Valentine's Day fantastic event you have coming up.
So Valentine's Day is something that has a very sort of sordid Roman history. So I've been researching all of that history and the Shakespearean legends of Valentine's Day. And some of it is quite sad, but being local with all the Civil War history, like we talked about, there's a lot of letters to wives and people who didn't make it home. And so we're going to do a program at the shop about Valentine's Day history and also love letters of the Civil War, where we're going to show some actually specifically from the Chickamauga area and surrounding area, from soldiers or wives, talk about it and give people an opportunity to practice 19th century style writing and see what they can come up with. We'll compare them,
Compare it to like a text in the DM where it's like, what are you doing?
I've been reading all these letters in archives, and they're so romantic. And I go, and then I look at my husband, I'm like, why don't you write to me like this? So we're gonna put together some letters.
Modern technology just killed romance.
Oh, great! I'm in trouble.
Yeah, you better start writing Mitzi a letter.
I'm in trouble.
Yes, no text messages. We want letters. Yes.
So what's the best way for people to connect with your business?
Sure. So what they want to do is go to our website, southernshadows.com. They should find all the information there. If not, Facebook, Instagram, we have a presence. I'm working on TikTok. I'll get there. But Facebook or Instagram, just send us a message. You'll most likely get to me, and I can answer any questions and help.
And you're clearly relational, so if they see you on the street,
please come talk to me. Stop, come in the store. We're right on Gordon Street.
Introverted, right?
Yes. I haven't been called that before, but maybe some days.
Okay, I love it. I knew when we were talking about relationships and just wanting to get somebody on the show who's a natural talker. Courtney was one person who came to mind.
It's because I kissed the Blarney Stone twice. That's why my mom tells me to talk so much.
Well, Courtney, thank you for joining us. Pastor Ashley, thank you. I think we're going to get you a coat like that, too.
Get me a coat.
Yeah, I'm going to have to shop it for you.
Maybe pull that off. Kind of a Dumb and Dumber look going on there. Yeah.
Little moped. You can take
Lloyd. Just call me Lloyd.
Trail.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Courtney, so much. All right, guys. Well, join us next time for another edition of Walker Talk.